Welcome back to the Wanks FPL podcast. We are here after a brief hiatus thanks to an international break that was much needed. You'll understand when you see our scores. We're back. How are we doing, boys? How's the IB been treating you? I personally closed Twitter and the FPL app out of rage and then haven't opened them until now. So we're back, baby. But how are you guys doing?
Yeah, similar boat. It was a nice mental reset for a little while. I didn't open either of those apps until this morning and opened them to some fun new colors, a lot of yellow and some red. So this is going to be exciting.
I also closed Twitter for a while. I, unlike you guys, though, looked at my victory for the game week, and then went off into a peaceful sleep for the rest of the week, content that I would not be wearing the plunger and having that hanging over my head for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah,
So,
nice. Well, Sharp, you missed
happy.
it, but last week we talked about how this game has done a really nice job of humbling us throughout the season. When anyone's too high, it brings them down. And let's be honest, you were due in that sense. So it's good to see the cone back.
Yeah, no, it's good to be humbled. Definitely needed it. I mean, I can point to exactly where it went wrong, and it's when I started getting a little too cocky, thinking I knew things that others didn't, when in reality, I know nothing.
And all is right in the world. That being said, I mean, I guess let's just jump into it. Mac, we can allow you to bask in some glory really quick. 57 points, average was 38, so that kind of blew it out of the water. 449,000 game week rank. That's pretty solid.
Pretty solid. Took me up to 1.5 overall. So I've gained 2 million game weeks in the last 2 weeks, which is awesome. Kind of a disappointing bench boost, to be honest. Villa looked a little stronger than I thought, but honestly, who cares? It's behind us. I'm not at the bottom. Pretty good week.
I think we were all in the same boat on that because I was literally on Twitter defending starting Senesi this week because I thought he was going to haul, right? We I think talked about this briefly on the pod last week that Villa were second to last in XG in the league, and I was like, Senesi, DEFCON, clean sheet, like he's got options, he's got routes to points, does absolutely nothing. Really,
yeah.
stuff.
I didn't need to worry about it because I obviously bench boosted, but I think I would have stood behind the decision of starting him too. For what it's worth, like it's a bummer that they didn't put it together, but oh well. Is what it is. The bench boost altogether wasn't great, 7 points. So not even 8 for just having them all play, which was a bit of a bummer, but that's okay. Is what it is. And now that at least that chip's out of the way, and I needed to get it out of the way ahead of a structural change. Was potentially thinking about getting rid of 3 strikers. So yeah, that's kind of it. Not a lot to report. I think you guys will be in a relatively similar boat if you want to get into your teams.
Kind of a brutal. I forgot about the Semenyo miss penalty. Kind of a brutal, because that could have been a big haul there.
Yeah, I think if that had gone in, I would have been on an awesome bench boost. Right. So brutal, it didn't work out that way, but I'm not gonna worry about it. I had other opportunities to bench boost this year where I didn't do it and could have had potentially even a greater amount of points. So there's no woulda, shoulda, could you on this. I'm just happy it's out of the way. I genuinely am.
Yeah. Well, Sharp and I probably both should have bench boosted this week because we both had Igor Thiago on our bench, which is just phenomenal. Just love to see it. Sharp, talk us through the team.
I mean, look at that game week rank, baby.
That is staggering. 9.5 million.
That is impressive. And considering that dropped me to 433,000, I mean, I was getting up there. I'd put together a good amount of green arrows, and then the last 2 weeks really brought about the humbling. So yeah, I would have loved Thiago coming in. Dan Burn being a dumbass and shipping goals doesn't help the squad. Having Semenyo in there talking about helping a bench boost would have just been nice to have points on my starters, but it is what it is. A lot to leave in the past here. A lot to look forward to in the future when I have more points on my bench than damn near in my starting lineup.
Yeesh. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of flags to look forward to in the squad as well. That's always exciting.
Yeah, I can tell you all 4 of those yellows popped up. That red's there for a game week. So me and my 1 free transfer are going to be fighting for our lives out here.
Jesus. Yeah, Hits FC is back. But it is worth noting, like a sub 500K overall rank is still phenomenal territory to be in at this point in the season. Like there's so much time left, and to be that low is really good. So props to you on that.
I'm not happy where I'm at. but just the momentum is the hard part to deal with right now, right?
Yeah.
Because I had built it up for so long, it would have been nice to just maintain or continue with those green arrows. So it's tough to have to like rewind and figure it out again, because I think I was ahead of the 8 ball for a lot of this, and now I'm definitely behind the 8 ball and need to adjust some things.
Yeah. Well, along those lines, I thought my way of getting back ahead of the 8 ball was a wildcard 10. Since then, things have gone pretty fucking brutal. It's nice to know that I picked Thiago on that wild card and just not to use him, just to play him when he blanks. That's always stellar. Yeah, the Newcastle Brentford game was a shocker. Like that just felt like kind of a reminder from the league of where we're at. Of, you know, we've talked up for a long time now, basically since our Newcastle episode, how good Newcastle are defensively. And not only did they not keep it clean, they really didn't keep it clean. They let in 3. Thiago scores twice. So everything I thought I knew, out the window. But this is good. You know what I mean? We're going into an international break, or coming out of an international break, with just chaos, which is always, chaos is a ladder. Let's, you know, figure it out. Yeah, I think having double Newcastle defense, I keep seeing that as just like a great differential, and it's freaking me out right now. Jury's out on if Gabriel is indeed out for a little while, as is rumored out of this international break, if double Arsenal defense is still the way. You know, is it worth replacing him with another Arsenal defender? Is it worth going with somebody else? Van Dijk is on the table. Obviously, Liverpool's fixtures start to turn, so there's some conversation to be had there. And then the thing that we've talked about every week is the Palace wheels falling off, and that certainly hasn't happened yet. The only thing that did happen over the IB that may be a part of that is, I think Gahey got injured. It's uncertain of like how long he might be out or what have you, but went off with injury during an England game. So yeah, we'll see what comes. But I think there's quite a bit to talk about with regards to what our future plans might be. So on this episode, we're going to try to build a wildcard squad as a group, which could just be a chaotic effort, you know, to try to put our 3 brains together. But I think that'll really help us kind of get back to where are we at, what kind of plays do we want to make going forward? Because I think it's easy to feel a little bit lost at the moment with kind of what's going on.
Yeah, it's a big transitional game week. You know, I think we always knew that 12 would be a huge flip between the Liverpool fixture suddenly getting amazing and stuff, but then also just a ton of unexpected injuries from high-owned players over the international break. So pretty excited for this wildcard squad, because I truly don't know what's coming, right? A lot of locks are now injured, like Gabriel. Who knows for how long? Still very much unsure of where we are, where we're headed, where we're going, where we are.
Well, I do think it's funny that the Liverpool switch in 12 or 13, I had heard rumblings of like people just being like, book a transfer and everybody's going to be looking to get Van Dijk in for an Arsenal defender. And then sure enough, an Arsenal defender goes down in prime time to just get Van Dijk. So that feels like the obvious move, but I'm sure there's a lot of nuance to that as well. I
want to get into that one when we start building, because I still don't know.
I think Mac and I might be on the same page with that one. I still disagree with that being the move. I still think Arsenal's proved they're the defensive team. So I think there's a lot to unpack with the future game weeks coming up. But what the hell am I looking at? Like, that is how I feel looking at this game week team. Like, I mean, no shit, I had such a bad week. 2 of these players have been on my radar at all. That's it.
Well, the average being in the 30s is, you already know, it was a shit game week for everyone, which just makes it that much more painful that you and I benched Thiago, because that would have, we would have had stellar weeks. But yeah, this is a weird one. The only player I think worth calling out here that probably isn't getting enough love is Garnacho. He's been returning a lot as of late. And it's that the Chelsea thing we've been talking about of where do the goals come from, but he's definitely looked like a threat from the wing. And I think at some point you have to start kind of keeping an eye out on stuff like that. That being said, Chelsea's fixtures do turn quite hardcore. They're not going to be in the top of any of these metrics. We've got some of the best fixtures for attackers and defenders. For attackers, it's Palace, Liverpool, Brighton, United, and Bournemouth. And for defenders, it's Liverpool, City, Palace, United, and Brighton. I think that's interesting. Like the Liverpool City ones being high up there are what I expected, but Palace being as high as they are from now on is it feels like the rich are getting richer. Like that's a team who's just done really well this season, and then their fixtures are going to continue to favor them. As much as we've talked about those wheels falling off, it seems like Wolves, United, Burnley, and Fulham feel like a pretty solid run to keep the train on track.
Yeah, if the wheels fall off with Palace, I think it's going to just be due to injuries and or the presence of Sarr leaving for AFCON. Because if you look back at the Palace results, I mean, they did not have good results for the first 3 game weeks when Sarr was immediately injured, to the point where I started the season with Mateta and transferred him out. And as soon as he came back, they got really good again from an attacking perspective, right? So if the wheels do fall off, I expect it to end after this run. I think Palace guys are going to be a little bit of a must, but it's just kind of be weary, obviously, with AFCON coming up and then hitting the real fixtures, like congestion.
Yeah, worth touching on it a little bit. Some of these AFCON absences, notably Bumo, Salah, obviously, Ndai, Sarr, Dango Ouattara, ? And I think Wissa is only relevant as you look at Woltemade as a long-term forward. He's somebody who I have in my team, and I'd be curious when we get to transfer plans to talk about, is it worth shipping him out? Plays City this week, but long-term, Newcastle have really nice fixtures, and he's just going to be the guy for a while now. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm interested in that conversation because I've been kicking around. I think a couple weeks ago I called out JP. I was like, everyone hates him, so he's going to be good. Well, he got good, but now Chelsea's fixtures are going to stink after this week. So I'm like, I don't really want him. Then you look at, obviously, Mateta then would be the other one in there. But if we're worried about what Mac just covered with Sarr, then that leaves an asterisk. And there just doesn't seem like there's very much in the forward position to warrant transferring him out right now. But honestly, Fulham, I know Fulham wasn't on your list, but they have a pretty solid run coming up here in terms of green fixtures as well. Unless I completely made that up. I mean, I guess I'm ignoring City. I was looking at the top 2 there. I'm not scared of Sunderland and Tottenham necessarily. And I was looking at them
Whoa.
Yeah. I was looking at them but kind of Iwobi or Sessegnon. Really, they're the only 2 guys I guess I was even like considering out of those 2.
Well, that does inadvertently bring up, can we touch on a little in-house cleaning of both of your teams? I know I ask this of you guys a lot, but Tottenham really feel like we touched on this last time around, Mac, after Tottenham had gotten smacked by Chelsea. And then they came out and beat tied with United 2-2. What is your take on kind of where they're at? Because I don't really know how to, when I see Tottenham on the fixture ticker, especially, that's especially pertinent with Arsenal playing them this week. I'm a Saka owner. How do you read that? Is that something where a team like that could return really well? Is that, to Sharp's point, is that something that you should be targeting, or are they a pretty solid defense? And they're very Jekyll and Hyde. I never know who's showing up there.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to target them at all, it's going to be against them, right? I just think that the offense is still not high enough functioning right now on a consistent basis to want any of their attackers. There's not a lot of stability. Kudus is not leaving for AFCON, but he's the only guy who's returning, and we're just not generating a ton of chances. So I would steer away completely from the attackers, and then the fixture run is not very good either. If you're going to play against them, I think you would want to target them when Spurs are home, because in the last 40 games, it's pretty well known amongst the Spurs fan base, but we're the last, literally last for points scored in the last 40 games from home. And then away, we're second. Not second to last, but second. So if you're playing Spurs at home, I mean, there's a huge opportunity for some hauls, but I think overall they're just a solid enough team, because the defense is really what's good about Spurs, from an individual player quality standpoint, that I'm not sure it's a shoe-in. Arsenal can beat anybody, so I wouldn't be surprised if Arsenal put a couple best Spurs this upcoming weekend, but I'm not sure that when they play a Fulham, you're going to expect those guys to go off or something, So I think selects fixtures, if it works, sure. I wouldn't be too scared of them if they're home, but I'm not free hitting against Spurs necessarily,
Yeah, I got you. Sharp Liverpool assessment, if you will.
No. No, I mean, I'm actually kind of upset that the fixtures have turned, from an FPL perspective, I should say. I'm upset that the fixtures have turned to the point where it looks like you almost need to have someone from Liverpool in there, because right now I still don't want anyone specifically.
Right.
Like in my mind, I'm like, yeah, I want an attacker, but do I want Gakpo? Is Ekitike going to keep coming in here? I don't want Salah because of his price still. Is Soboslai going to have more attacking, or is he going to get 22 def cons? Don't know. But there's a lot of weird moving parts there, and we just still can't keep clean sheets. So then I'm like, I don't necessarily want Van Dijk.
Sure.
Kanate's been kicked around as an option because he's 5.4. I get that. He's so bad in real life that I just can't stand him. But I guess it is worthy of noting that we should pay attention to when Allison comes back. They said he could be in contention as early as this week. I wouldn't expect that since we haven't really heard too much. But looking ahead, I mean, I expect him to be able to put in the work that he can to help us get some clean sheets. So that could change some things too. But right now, I feel like if you're going to get someone, it's looking at what attacker would you personally have faith in. Gakpo's probably a good long-term option with Salah being gone, opening up playing time. Soboslai is someone that continues to be interesting to me because of his versatility, but that's also then I can't count on him for anything specific. So it's a personal preference at that point.
Yeah, Sobo's a really interesting one. He's someone who's just has been, at least this season, super involved. It feels like in their attack, or, just very integral to what they're doing when they're going forward, when he's not playing right back, right? Obviously, the def cons are probably inflated by the games that he has played at defense. But the thing is, I didn't realize until I looked earlier today, he only has 1 goal, 1 assist this season. It feels like more. And it definitely, when you're watching the games, he's super involved. So it...
Well, that's ironic.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. No. I was just going to say that's the ironic part. His 1 goal was that free kick against Arsenal. That was an absolute beauty. But that was when he was playing right back.
Yeah, just came up for a random free kick, so who knows? Yeah.
But that is kind of an interesting point. Is he going to get those completely when Salah's gone too? So, I mean, could be another reason to look at him.
Sure.
I'm not going to look at him just because I won't be able to find him. It took me a minute and a half to spell his name right, so he'd pop up in the search. The entire time you guys have been talking about him, I've been looking at this.
It's just SC. I don't think there's anyone else, unless Sammy Smodix is in there somewhere.
I thought it was like SO, then SA, then SL.
Well, yeah, I think if you were going to look anywhere from the attacking side, the defensive stuff we can get to, because I think that's naturally going to kind of come up for all of us. But on the attacking side, I really do feel like I guess you could say 3 options, but I think the main 2 options would be Sobo or Gakpo. Ekitike, God, isn't that just the conundrum of the season, is of whether or not to get Ekitike, who looks phenomenal and scores a shit ton of goals. But
we don't play him.
Right, but we don't. Yeah. So Sobo and Gakpo, I think, are the 2 that may be of interest. Gakpo, I would have been absolutely bullish on, and then he got completely benched for Wirtz. So who's to say if he's really the guy to be looking at there? He could definitely be a minutes risk, but to your point, maybe he has a little bit more assured minutes when Salah leaves. And then Sobo, I think, is the real aggressive, punty, he could just be absolute dog shit, but he's also 6'5". So if you were going to get a Liverpool attacker for this run, who's that guy?
I guess my problem with him is that he's not even guaranteed to be an attacker necessarily, right?
Right.
I look at his numbers and he doesn't necessarily always get def cons. He doesn't have a lot of attack. He doesn't have a lot of goal threat. He's a great player, but I'm struggling just to see how it translates to points beyond the odd goal. And this sucks because I want a Liverpool player so bad. But who do you go for? It's going to be the conundrum.
Yeah, I would be surprised, I will say, if I'm trying to read this slot crystal ball. I think I would be surprised to see him play any more games at right back, unless it's a big injury happens and they need to throw him there. I do kind of feel like he'll be solidified more in the midfield now, but I also think that means that he could just miss a game randomly. He seems the most nailed of any Liverpool player, but again, it's just the same thing of they have too many attackers for the number of positions.
And I think the problem with him being nailed is his versatility. It's hand in hand. It's the only reason he's playing is because he can play all over the pitch. So I think it's going to be interesting. I personally, I mean, I guess I've said it for a while, but I would love to see Ekatike obviously play more and play at striker. I think he plays better. I think Isak played, at least in the last game I watched, too far behind for how the rest of the attackers want to play and move the ball up. And so to get Ekatike, who's way more aggressive in there, or even just get him in there when Salah's gone at right wing and just let him play because he's been positively impacting everything. So from a fan perspective, I would say buy Ekatike, but like don't really know if that's going to happen. So I think we're all in the same boat here, but
I'd be really interested to see just in general what happens to Liverpool when Salah leaves. Like, Inslot has the creativity to not have to play him every game. Like, that would be really interesting to see if suddenly you guys click and then Salah comes back and it's like,
yeah.
But so Mac, why don't you drive on this wild card thing? Because I think this transitions us nicely because of these fixtures, right? And seeing how good it is for Liverpool. If you were building a wild card, I think it's safe to say you'd have to have it definitely at least one Liverpool player, but arguably two. That could be the wrong take based on what we're talking about the uncertainty with those guys. But if you were on wild card, genuinely, I think it'd be really hard not to go with somebody from there. But I don't know. Let's start building. And if there's other players that naturally come up, I think injuries make it a little bit difficult. Like a Semenyo, for example, we're not sure whether he's actually going to be out for any time at all, but it sounds likely that he would miss at least this week against West Ham. It feels like maybe there's some opportunity to add other players in there.
Yeah, I agree completely. Worth noting. Sorry, you go, Luke. What are you thinking?
No, go ahead, Sharp.
I was just gonna say what? No, go ahead, Mac. No, I was just gonna say what has annoyed me looking at the fixtures you had up there. I was gonna do this as a segue, but with the fixtures you had up there, I want United to have a good defender. That's what I really want. I want to be able to just pick someone from United and plug them in at defense. But like, De Ligt doesn't really do much, and Shaw had one or two good games. Like, I don't know.
Is Dorgu? I think Dorgu's the attacking one. Is that right?
Yeah, I was looking at him at the beginning of the season, but I'm not sure he's been very good under Amarin, and I'm not sure he's even playing a lot right now.
I think with United, it's less so like who's a specific guy and more so just that I really don't trust them to keep cleans. They honestly, in a lot of ways, remind me of last season's Tottenham. Not to say like exactly in play style or anything like that, but just in the sense of when you look at what a score might be after a United game, I feel like it's going to be both teams have scored multiple goals. It doesn't really feel like they're ever going to grind out too many like 1-0 wins or anything like that. So I feel like there are a lot better options for, especially with the opportunities from DEFCONs. And you have teams up here like Bournemouth and Crystal Palace that are just feel much more reliable. That being said, Bournemouth just got smoked by Villa. So
I just looked at De Ligt, and De Ligt has played 90 minutes of every game for United and has one clean sheet. So
brutal stuff.
Not great.
But this is also the argument, right? So you see a fixture run like this, you see something switch, and it's okay. How much is that going to make a team turn the page and start being able to do stuff like that? Start keeping clean sheets, start scoring more goals versus this is who they've been. This is who they're going to be. And I think we've talked a lot about that fixtures are maybe not the driver this season just because the promoted sides are as good as they are. So yeah, maybe, but yeah, I think in the United sense, I'm not feeling any like FOMO on not having a United defender.
I have to agree. Well, let's just get into it. Maybe it'll fit.
Yeah.
Who knows?
You want to zoom a little bit, Mac?
Yeah. What I was going to say is worth noting. I have the highest like team value, depending on how you want to look at it. So using Sharp and Luke's fake stat, I have 100.9. Using the real stat, I have 103.2. Whatever way you want to fall in that debate.
However, just to be clear, you can buy $100.9 million worth of players.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just saying. One of these days we'll look it up and like calculate out who is right, but I don't actually know.
Mac, what do you mean? Like, what would we calculate out? I don't understand what you mean.
If you go to FPL, it tells you the team value.
Right,
somewhere.
but you can buy 100.9 pounds worth of players.
But
That's
that's
it.
because
That's the dealio.
I understand your argument. I'm just saying you're wrong.
Like, you tell me what your arbitrary number means. You tell me what it represents, and then we can have an argument. Until then, this is the number.
What it
Well,
means is
that's
the
what he
value
needs
of
to
your
go
players,
calculate.
but you
That's it.
guys
He needs to
lose.
go figure that out.
You lose stuff when you transfer people out, right? Like because it rounds down to the price. So you're
Mhm.
losing. I understand what you guys are talking about, buying power versus like mine's from the baseline of 100 mil
Sure.
that we all started with.
Sure. Well, what we're doing right now is we're building a team with the value you have.
Sure,
So
sure.
let's run that.
Either way, I have the highest. So fuck you both.
Facts.
That's why we're using my team. I'm actually just not going to listen to anything you guys say after that brutality.
So, okay, I feel like something you have to have, regardless of their fixtures not being like stellar go forward, is an Arsenal defender, at least one, right? And so
yeah, minimum.
then begs the question, who's the best Arsenal defender? I saw Calafiori pulled out of the Italy squad. So not to say that that's necessarily an issue, but if I was building from scratch, it might be enough to tip me to go elsewhere. So yeah, Timber I think is a good pick. Raya, arguably.
They're all. I know the fixture swing, so they have Tottenham, Chelsea, Brentford, Villa, Wolves, Everton, but like it's Arsenal who have had the best defense, and at some point, if Arsenal want to win the Premier League, they have to win these games, and they have the highest chance of getting a clean sheet. So in my mind, even if their defense is slightly porous now, probably still just worth having at a minimum one of them. And
Definitely.
So I'm slotting in Timber temporarily because he's the only one who's not evidently injured.
And he might be because he went down today.
Right.
And got
So
subbed, so who knows?
TBD on that, but at least one Arsenal defender.
I think Saliba is also an argument, right? Like if he could, if Gabriel really is gone, he could be taking on some of that role, and not just from the DEFCON perspective, but also potentially from the set piece threat. So his stocks have been wildly low on Saliba this year so far, but it may be an option.
I don't think the stocks have been low unfairly because I think Calafiori and Timber have like 60 points. He's got 40, so he's down 20 on them, but it's just because he's not a goal threat, right? What do you guys value? Do you still think, first question I think is, do you still think that the Arsenal double up in defense is necessary on the back of a potential Gabriel and Timber injury?
I'm not going to say it's necessary, but I'm going to say I'm still going to do it because of the reasons that Luke just laid out, in that Arsenal is simply the best defense in this league. And not a lot of people have been able to say we're keeping clean sheets every week. We thought Newcastle was going to do it. They're not doing it. So just based on their history and the way that they play the game, even though Gabriel's out, you look at Saliba, and I know we're talking this season. I'm up on Saliba because he last year was the guy getting the DEFCONs. He is that second header threat that can come in. Like, I think he's got a lot of opportunity here that if he can step up and take on that time and not be the guy getting subbed out, then he's going to start giving us more points.
Something also worth thinking about there, though, is if Gabriel is out, and let's say it's Mosquera who's been subbing in when Saliba's been injured, because we have these 5 free transfers coming in 16, I wonder if you could go for a player like that I'm not. Can you look up his price max or Mosquera? MOS, yeah.
Any other guesses? Oh, I meant the goalkeepers.
I was going to say it's definitely MOS.
Let's see. MOS. 5.4. Only 14 points.
Still not that cheap. Jesus.
But just not getting a lot of minutes. But obviously, right, he's not starting over Gabriel Saliba. So I guess if the minutes come consistently.
Yeah. So in theory, he could be an option. But I think it's the double Arsenal defense thing. To what Sharp said, I don't know if coming into this pod I would have said that you have to have it go forward. I think it's an opportunity to take it on. But if you look at the teams who have really good fixtures going forward, who's a team that has a blend of both good fixtures going forward and that I trust defensively? Not that many, you know. I think Senesi provides great. Yeah, Palace.
That's it for me, I think.
Yeah, and I think Palace even if Gahey is indeed carrying an injury coming out of the IB, that is the exact fall off that I'm like, okay, I don't want to touch that then, because they have European games and I just don't. And Richards has been injured going into the IB. I just worry about them in that sense. And me personally, I'd love to say I'm comfortable to take that on, but Wolves, United, Burnley, Fulham looks so good. So yeah, it's probably worth having one. Even from an EO coverage perspective, it's probably worth having one. So yeah, okay, put a Palace defender.
All right, but last thing on the Arsenal defense. So we pretty unanimously agree you need 2 of them. Where do you stand on Raya versus Saliba? Because Raya has more points right now. Like Saliba has 39, Raya has 54. Is there something to be said about just going for Raya and just not having to worry about a goalie position? Or are you still trying to do the double up of the more attacking Arsenal defenders?
I think Raya is a really fair option. Obviously, the cost is what's working against him, but same type of thing we're talking about with other defenders. Looking at goalkeepers, so Royce from Sunderland is the top scoring keeper this year, and he's at 4.7.
Mm-hmm.
So that's stellar, but their fixtures are absolutely awful, and you really have to start thinking that Sunderland's fall off is going to come soon. Sharp and I both have Nick Pope. I still think he is potentially an option because of how many saves he gets, but this is recency bias talking, but as somebody who's just burned by how bad Newcastle have been defensively the last couple of games, I don't know if I'd be eager to hop on that. And so then, yeah, it starts to run a little bit thin of like teams that have both good fixtures and a cheap-ish keeper. I think maybe the only one to go with would be the Bournemouth goalkeeper. Who is it? Petrovic. Yeah, yes. So he's 4.5. So that would be if you wanted to go the cheap route, maybe you go with him and somebody that rotates well with him.
Like
or you go him and Dubravka and just try to go ultra cheap and kind of pray, I guess. So yeah, their next few: West Ham, Sunderland, Everton, Chelsea. I think it's tough though, because even if you get to 16 and you have a cheap goalie like that, and you're like, all right, I'll get rid of him now. You don't want to spend your 5 transfers, one of them on a goalie. So you probably do just want someone set and forget. So I can see the argument for Raya. Where do you guys stand on that?
I mean, I have Raya. That was my whole argument towards getting Raya. The thing is, when I got Raya at the time, Arsenal weren't quite scoring exclusively headers because I wildcarded in game week 6, and that's when I brought Raya in. So maybe just the trends weren't as known. Like, a couple defenders had got a couple header goals, but I was like, sure, this will dry up. Now I'm not so sure. If you were wildcarding this week, I think I would probably say get the double Arsenal center backs. I've kind of wished. I've been a little envious of those who have had them, but it was never worth making a transfer in my case, right? I'm only 10 points down on not having a Timber or a Calafiori. I don't know.
Go ahead, Sharp.
I think that Raya, to your point about Pope, I think Raya is solely about keeping clean sheets. And he's so much more expensive at 5.9 that if we're going to have that much confidence to take Raya, that means we think they're going to get clean sheets, which means Saliba and Timber are going to benefit.
Take the guys who are DEFCON.
That's exactly. Like, you cover yourself that way. And then take a guy that's going to be... I've been kicking around like a few different ways looking at goalie, I guess, not to segue too hard, but I guess I would feel like we're Timber and Saliba as where we're leading right now. So then my goalies I've been looking at, obviously Pope I think could still be considered. Obviously you always have Dubravka in there, but I'm kind of kicking around this idea because we don't know when Alisson's going to be back and Liverpool has the run they have, and we know that Liverpool's defense is not going to keep people away from the goal. To go both Alisson and Mama back there at goalie and then transfer him out for Dubravka eventually. Does that make any sense?
Transfer out Mama or?
Yeah, once he's done, like once Becker's back, because you get Alisson at a cheap price. Like, he 5.4, he's lost value throughout. So then you have just...
I can't really not spell Alisson.
Just put Becker.
See, I never know what they go by. Like, it doesn't pull up search results if you search their first name. So it's like I search Bruno all the time for Bruno Fernandes, and I don't go beat up Fernandes.
Yeah.
But Sharp, did you not say that Alisson is training like now to potentially be back this upcoming week?
To potentially be back. So you could do, I mean, this is like, how much are you putting stock in words versus like, I don't think we've really seen action on it yet, but you always, you can flip Dubravka in there or flip in another goalie that you would have faith in for the next like 2 weeks if you want to take that risk. But I guess my thought process is, I know one of these guys is going to play. I know I don't have a bench boost. And in 4 or 5 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever game week 16 comes, I have 5 free transfers to do something with, and it wouldn't be the worst thing if one of those becomes a goalie swap out.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair point. I'm generally not interested in doing a goalie transfer. So if this was a standard wild card, I would probably just slot in Dubravka if I was going Allison. However, you've brought up the point that we're going to get the 5 free transfers in 16. And I think we've discussed this offline, Luke, but if you're getting the 5 and 16, you have to spend 1 and 16
Right.
to accrue another, right? So that could
Right.
just be your freebie that you
like
have
you're
to spend.
booked in week 16. I'm getting a new goalie. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And similarly, not only that, but you want to, like, it makes sense for you to empty your transfers out and go into 16 with 0. So if it became a priority that you had to do it, it's easy. As well as if you're wildcarding right now, you probably don't need to make a transfer next week. You could book one in if you wanted to be aggressive, but you're almost certainly rolling. So yeah, let's move forward with that. Like, I don't hate that at all.
Well,
Just
okay. I
leaving.
mean, so I actually propose we leave the goalies just to see who we can afford, because I feel like the goalie's the position that
Sure.
matters the least.
Okay.
We've talked about
Fair.
some good ideas, but let's maybe build out the rest of the team and then see who fits, because that might make this choice for us.
For sure. No, that makes sense.
Maybe
I
let's
think-
move on to mids, because I think that might help me. Because looking at Timber and
Yeah.
Saliba together, I'm like, do I want 2 6.0s
Yeah,
that
it's like,
one
who
of
do
them
we
is not
want
Gabrielle? Then I
more?
might be more interested in
Wait.
spending the money elsewhere.
Before we go to mids, I think we can all just throw in Holland.
Yeah.
You know what?
You
Fair
just-
point.
good call.
You know,
Yep. All right. Yeah. Okay. How about that? Maybe we should start like, who do we definitely want? This is trying to wrangle 3 brains. But
yeah.
in my mind, when we pull up that best game chart, which I'm going to pull back up real quickly, we have Liverpool, United, Bournemouth, Palace, Brighton. Even if we're meh on the Liverpool assets, in my mind, you're going to want at least a couple guys from one of Man United, Bournemouth, and Palace.
Yep.
Right.
I think a Palace attacker for me is a must for sure.
Okay.
Whether that's Sarr, Mateta, or one or both, I think that's for sure. I would say Semenyo if it wasn't for that let's say he was going to miss West Ham.
Mhm.
Like, suddenly, do you want to bring a player in like that who, maybe doesn't play West Ham and then plays 60 minutes in the next game or what have you? I think if I was on wildcard, I'd be open to just taking that on and, looking at transferring him whenever he does get healthy. I think that also opens the door. I don't personally think that Saka is worth it long term, but if you're not spending the money on Semenyo, you might have the money to just have a player like that, and I wouldn't mind it. Anyway, I all that to say, first thing I would say Palace attackers.
Okay.
I think one of them is a must because
Let's-
neither of them are injured and they have fantastic fixtures going forward.
Yeah, I mean, their fixtures are amazing, and we have relatively minimal injury concerns besides Guehi, and there are other viable options. Is Mateta someone you guys would probably recommend picking up this week just because of the fixtures? Right. I imagine he's got to be in most teams.
Yeah,
He's kind
for
of been
sure.
the inform forward.
And
I
whether
mean-
you want Sarr, I feel like is personal
choice.
ref. Yeah,
I'm going to drop him in there until we suss out a better option, but I think he's a pretty solid placeholder
sure.
for a wild card team. I mean, it's Wolves next. They might put up 100, to be honest.
I
Maybe
think
a
my
basketball game.
next then take on this. I agree with Mateta. Still could go Sar, could not go Sar. I'm indifferent on that. But my next, looking at that chart and who's coming up, Bumo to me. It's a United or 2 mid, like 1 or 2 mids out of United, and Bumo feels like the most obvious choice.
I agree.
I typed it out. I can't spell his name. I
MB.
tweeted out. Excuse me.
You had
MB.
it. Yep.
There you
Oh.
go. We're gonna have to do it. We're gonna have to have the conversation.
Yeah,
Who you get
there it is.
Bruno? That's we gotta
No.
have the talk. Birds and the bees.
Okay, wait. Before we have the talk, I just want to throw in an alternative
Mhm.
because I think 2 United mids is the way to go.
It's
I
not
think-
Cunha.
I agree. It's not.
Okay, I was going to say, if you're going to suggest him, don't.
It could be.
I'm not.
It could
No,
be.
no.
So
It's
Sesko's going to be out.
Casemiro. It's Casemiro.
It's not Casemiro. It's not
Okay.
Casemiro.
Casemiro.
It's just
5'5"?
not Casemiro.
Yes,
No,
please.
it's just simply not Casemiro. I will
Why-
not
why do
stand
you-
for that.
Why do you
Okay.
hate why do
We
you-
have a pro and a con. I'd like to hear Sharp your pro Casemiro point first. hit it with
pull
it.
up his last 2 games.
Okay, so we're operating on a large sample size.
I mean, pull up however many games, but that's a pretty solid run. I've been talking to my friend who's the United fan. I sent the screenshot of earlier, and he feels like if they want to win games, Casemiro is going to be a lock in the squad.
For sure.
So,
For sure
so
on that, but
I'm
he's going to be
seeing
playing defensive mid. That's my con.
Forest
He
and
gets
Brighton.
medium defcons.
Last 3, he hit all 3.
Yeah, but
that's true.
last 3 those are arguably.
He's 4 out of 5 as well.
No, that's a fair point. Recent form, good fixtures. But do you think he's going to defcon if these teams are not as attacking?
You know what? Throw him in. Fuck it. Throw him in.
Well,
Throw
he's
him
in. I got
Oh,
all
we
4 of
don't
them.
have to, but I think I'm looking at this as a 5-5 mid too.
Well,
So, Luke,
okay.
what's the case against?
For me, the case against is just it's that like I think this is the same case, and I'm gonna die on this hill this season, and I hope I'm right, Mac, about like whether this was the case or not, and maybe there's some sort of a game shift. But players like him and Caicedo, who I'm like, this is just like not how it works. When you play defensive mid, you don't consistently score goals. That's just like not how it works. However, the counter argument and why I'm down to actually throw Casemiro in is we just talked about that we're not going to get a United defender. And Sesko, I just saw before we came on, is projected to be out for a few weeks. So we're certainly not going to be getting a forward. So I do think if you were wildcarding, a double United mid is actually a pretty viable path. So whether that's I agree. I think my number one would be Bumo, although I think we should really talk about Bruno because it's closer than I'd like to admit, but I do think I would probably just go Bumo. Between Bruno and Casemiro, I think you could actually have some arguments. And if nothing else, we can just leave Casemiro in there as a cheap option of like, for me, my cheap option when I wildcarded was Dewsbury Hall at 4.9. But if you're in the case right now, Mac, where you have a lot of budget and you could spend a 0.5 more and have Casemiro, sure. Fucking have him.
Yeah, my budget option's Caicedo right now. Notable other players within that bracket are Xhaka, who's been scoring like a madman.
I think he's like a DEFCON monster, right? Isn't he just...
Let's see. He has... God, I can't see anything. Just got lost. He's got 133 DEFCONs. For context, yeah. Casemiro has 80 DEFCONs and Caicedo has 135. So Xhaka is putting up similar numbers to Caicedo.
Yeah.
But Casemiro's lagging in sort of the DEFCON thing. He's gotten 2 goals, which I'm happy about, but I'm not convinced those are going to be...
He's got 3 returns in his last 3 games.
Mm-hmm.
So that's phenomenal. But like, let's look at his previous seasons. Yeah, so 22-23, he had 4 goals, 3 assists. 23-24, he had 1 goal, 3 assists. Last season, he had 1 goal. So I feel like he's already hit his like, and it's the same story with Caicedo. We did talk about this Sharp on the last pod though, of like, okay, maybe the meta is shifting and there's some level of like, because of long throws or something and you know, more set piece opportunity that defensive mids are just cleaning up the loose change and scoring goals that way. But personally, I'm like, I can't, that sounds so lame. Like I can't even have fun the idea of just like picking defensive mids, which is also the argument to not get Bruno. So I think all of that is fair.
All right. So let's switch into probably the bigger debate. I think we can all agree that Cunha is probably not it, right? He's got mixed returns. He's a lot cheaper. He's probably going to play more, I would say, as a pro to him with the Sesko injury. So that could be good. Like guaranteed.
So not only that, Sesko injury, but then Bumo being out in for AFCON, like he actually could be a sneaky play. But I think doubling up on United mids is already a lot of pain to ask for.
It's a lot of variability. You don't always know what you're going to get with them. And they've been good. It's a good run of fixtures. For me, I think it's a budget thing. I think Cunha is a nice to have. Casemiro is a nice to have. The real conversation is who you're taking on Fernandez and Bumo. So, you guys have any thoughts on that?
I think Bumo, go ahead, Sharp. Actually, you go ahead.
No, I'm nothing different than what I've said all season. I feel like Bumo looks better attacking. He looks more. I like the way he plays. I like the corner. I know they both have corners, but I think he was putting more balls on target earlier in the season. We've talked about his underlying stats. I have a lot of faith in Bumo overall, whereas Bruno is still good, but I feel like he's kind of a PK Like, that's what I'm relying on to an extent. And given the amount they've already had this season, if we're going to go like law of averages with Caicedo and Casemiro, like same thing goes, like how many pins can you possibly get in one season?
Yeah.
I agree.
If nothing else, it's a mental health pick to not go with him. So
all right. So the three Wanks are aligned then that it's probably Mbumo, and you're saving a little bit of money. Worth noting, Mbumo has 60 points, Bruno has 50 points, and some of those are with a penalty. And there's the argument to be made that if Bruno didn't miss, he'd be like second penalty or second point score or whatever, but he did miss. He has 50 points. Mbumo is low risk just because of the transfers that you get in 16, right? If this was a normal year, I think I maybe could see stronger arguments for Bruno, because you wouldn't have to transfer him out, but you're going to get 5. So temporarily locking in Mbumo.
I would say
good. Actually, I'm going to jump. This may be just like we don't need to even go here, but we should probably just briefly mention we are going in Game Week 12 when Liverpool's fixtures are turning. Are we overlooking Salah? Would it be beneficial to do the Haaland Salah draft?
Well, okay, so this is what I was going to say, though. We're talking about those 3 transfers. Like, there's plenty of them, but you now have 3 guys you have to transfer out. So there's 3 of your 5.
True. Good point. Good point.
Yeah, I mean, you are stacking on the transfers, but if you want to get really aggressive and then utilize those transfers, if you think that there's high enough points to be had in these next couple of games, because they are phenomenal, it could be crazy.
Well, okay, but actually, though, are they? Because, okay, West Ham have started to, I feel like the Nuno ball setting a
bit of a rebound.
Yeah, so they've done okay. Sunderland, I'm out of like things for Sunderland because they continue to just be good. So I'm like out of saying anything. So maybe in the short term they're not as. I think in the long term they're phenomenal as well. So I'd be happy to keep somebody from Liverpool, but maybe going that aggressive with Salah isn't the play.
I mean, I think for me, like, honestly, I'd probably pick him up because at least he's the guy who is going to try to attack. Like, Gakpo might not even play, but Salah's going to play.
Right.
I just guess it depends on who you're sacrificing. Like, who are we missing out by having Salah? And probably the answer is a whole bunch. That only leaves us 37 mil to fill.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
8 positions. So happy to leave him in if we want. But I mean, Gakpo's the only other real midfield option, unless we're looking like overts. No. Salvazai.
Yeah, I think Salah just for his price is probably good to get rid of. Yeah,
I have to agree. Who else? I mean, we've already kind of talked about.
Can you guys give me your anti-Van Dijk pitches really quick? Because truthfully, like if I was doing this, I think Van Dijk would be one of the first players I bring in.
So I don't know. I'm not opposed to it. Like, I get why people are looking at it. I think for me, it's like, yes, well, these games are good. I mean, honestly, I could see them cleaning in all 3. So I think that is one of the things. Even if Nuno ball's setting in, I still don't know how attacking I expect Forest and West Ham to be. I think the problem is everybody's been labeling him as like some DEFCON monster, but he has 120 DEFCONs, which is a lot. But if you look at the DEFCON thresholds, he's only gotten it in just under half of his games so far. I think he's gotten it 5 out of the 6.
Yeah, and you got to think if they're playing, and less likelihood for him to get them.
Yeah, it's a little bit weird. I haven't been able to like pick out a consistent pattern, but they've had such a large run. But if you look at Burnley as like an indicator, maybe that's only 6, and then he didn't even get DEFCONs versus Arsenal. He got 7 against Chelsea, 6 against Villa, 4 against City. So like, I don't know if we can consistently say that he's not getting against bad teams, but I think that the risk is there. And the counter argument for him, though, is who else are you going to pick? There's kind of like all of a sudden this defensive hole if Gabriel's injured.
Well, I just think we already have 2 6 mils back there that I have a lot more faith in than him.
Now, that's a super fair argument, but that's where I would almost say, okay, then just get Raya.
See, but then he's still 5.9 to those that need him new. He's 5.7.
But Allison is 5.5 that we
don't have to go 5.4, but we don't have to go Allison either.
Yeah.
Look at Van Dijk's points and do like a point to cost ratio, and then you look ahead, like Sunderland scored on Arsenal. Okay, I'm taking that out. Like we're gonna give up a goal there, and I don't think we're going to keep it clean in the next two. We'll keep one of them clean and the other one not. So I'm basically paying for one clean in the next three.
All right, fair enough.
Okay. So do we leave him in or do we take him out right now?
You can take him out.
Okay. See if he fits. I think a lot of this could just come down to what we end up being able to afford a little bit later.
I'm surprised that Sharp hasn't lost his mind already about Wirtz being in there.
He's just been sitting there with no comment. I was like, did I mess up somewhere? Thought that was going to be an obvious one. Yeah, I mean, obviously, that's just disgusting. I'm just going to remove him now. Not even a point of talking about it.
Okay, so then Saka?
That's what I'm thinking. Honestly, I know you said Saka might not be good in the long term, but if you're determined to go for the double center backs, which I think we kind of agreed was probably the good move if you have the availability to do so, I think Saka's like a lock unless you want to triple up on the Arsenal defense. But if there's questions about two of their starting center backs and you think they're going to get a little weaker, then maybe you want the attacker, who did also just return, worth noting. Now, it was against Sunderland, but I think we also agreed that against Burnley he should have had like two as well. So we could be looking at a couple of returns in a couple of weeks. Not the greatest fixtures, but also a lack of alternative options. That's kind of where my head's at. What are you guys thinking with him?
I was really ready to argue it because I've been anti-Saka just from cost and how often he gets injured in the past and just not having faith in him, and it feels more fun to cheer against him. But then you pulled that up and I didn't hate your points for him. I think one guy that we're missing right now, we've already touched on, I would have Semenyo in there. I know he has that injury, but I think he's important to have. Yeah, I'm fine flipping out Soboslai for him. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, maybe it's even worth getting him. Yeah, we need to know. We need the press conferences to know for sure. But like, if he's a doubt to play this week, you still probably would get him, right? And
right. I don't think anyone's like selling him because even if you don't play him this week, then there's Sunderland, then there's Everton, who we've kind of established are not an amazing defensive team. And I expect a team like Bournemouth, who have been overperforming, to still beat these teams. I think if he plays, I could see at least a goal in one of these three.
Yeah.
It's just
I'm
tricky.
I still don't love Semenyo. I know, but I still just don't love him.
So are we looking then, instead of Saka, are we overlooking Rice? I think he's the only other probably big Arsenal guy to look at. He's got a lot of points. Saka comparatively has, obviously less points, but he was injured for a little bit. So 45 points as compared to Rice's 65.
And I think at that point, I would rather go Sobo, personally. I don't
really.
That might be a hot take, but yeah.
So are you saying Sobo over Rice with the inclusion of Saka, or Sobo over Rice, period?
I guess kind of regardless. It depends on obviously what we're doing in that third forward spot, but I would probably because I'm thinking you probably wouldn't have another guy at that price point, like a third. It's tricky though, and the Saka one, the only reason to have him, I think, is the lack of alternatives. Like, I'm not really sold on Saka either. I just don't know who else you would have.
You can come to me on the dark side and have Eze.
Yeah.
I know it's I'm not arguing for it in this situation, but I have enjoyed having him as like a.
Fair. He's fun to watch. Yeah.
Yeah, fun to watch. He returned when Saka didn't or hadn't yet, so that was fun.
Yeah.
Do we know when Odegaard comes back?
Good question. No,
I do not.
I saw that he provided a positive update on his knee, but who knows what that means?
Yeah, probably a couple weeks.
Vague and non-specific.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about the third striker spot then.
All right.
Because Thiago. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say exactly that. Thiago probably is who we're going to look at.
Thiago or Voltemad. I think that's the only other option there. And I think he has a tough matchup against City this week, but after that, it's really a pretty solid run. Everton, Tottenham, Burnley, Sunderland, Chelsea, United, Burnley. So there's an argument to be made, but I think Thiago is just great value for money type of vibe.
I just think he's great value. And, he's the second highest scoring forward. And I know that you could say that he's gotten his last two. Weren't these both
pens.
They weren't both pens against Newcastle, but they were certainly both pens against United, right?
He had 1 pen against United, 1 pen against Liverpool, and then I don't remember. 1 pen against Newcastle, 1 pen against Liverpool. I don't remember against United.
I could be making that up. How do you guys feel about him? You both own him. Is he just a keep because of his value for you guys, expecting that he might have mixed returns?
For me, I actually didn't view Voltamod as the alternative. I think he is an alternative, like in terms of the entire forward position. But I think in this third one, you really only, it's him. I think it's Danny Welbeck. And if you don't have Welbeck, I think you need to have Minte or someone else. When you look at the Brighton fixture run, I thought they were high on the sheet that we had. Maybe not.
They're high on the fixture run. I was going to ask if we were overlooking them as well, but I know that often those decisions are made more on your budget guys. So
it is worth noting that sorry, Mac, that Brentford, after this Arsenal fixture, their run is just super clean for a long time. I think if they didn't have Arsenal in 14, they would probably be close to tops.
I think that's a fair point. Yeah, at least they're 17. I mean, I would be comfortable playing Thiago against Burnley, Leeds, Wolves at a minimum. So if he's a rotational striker and you're looking to play aggressive in the next couple of weeks, I would be comfortable playing him in at least those 3 games. And then you're not like, one of the reasons that I bench boosted last week, I suppose, to get into some of that was because I wanted to kind of take Woltemade out. Not only because I'm concerned about his form, just with Newcastle being as injured as they are. Like, I think that's a big problem with their defenders is like, just they're super injured, and that's why I think they're shipping a lot of goals, and we might need to wait for them to heal again. But also, I didn't love the structure of having 3 high-priced forwards up front. Yeah. I felt like I was missing out on a lot of the variability in the midfields and the easy moves. So I was looking to get out of him anyways. I think he's the guy in my current team, Mateta, Holland, and Woltemade, the guy to go potentially. Now, he does have fairly good fixtures coming up in a couple weeks. So that's one con, I suppose. And he did score in the international break. That's a different team, different system. So how are you guys feeling on like a Thiago, Welbeck, Voltemade?
I'm with Thiago or Welbeck. You sold me on no Voltemade, but
well, really, I wasn't even trying to sell. I was just trying to provide all the points. Are you guys really still high on Welbeck? Is my question, I suppose, because he's been putting up some excellent numbers. That's been fantastic. 2 weeks of rest and no Europe could be great, but the same argument could be made for Thiago. So I suppose next 4 for Welbeck are Brentford, Forest Villa, and then for Thiago it's Brighton, Burnley, Arsenal, Spurs, Leeds. So
yeah, I think for me, obviously I went Thiago when I made this decision 4 weeks ago or whenever it was, and I kind of wish I had gone Welbeck. But I think the answer, if you're going to be aggressive, is Thiago, and if you're looking long term, probably more Welbeck. Is that accurate?
I actually think the long term might be more.
You think it's
Thiago.
The other way? Yeah, fair.
Because the other thing with Thiago is that because he did so well last week, I think he was being bought a lot. So you're taking on not having him. You're taking on a little like probably some EO. I could see like in the short term, especially because we have the 5 free transfers, I could really go either way on this one. I think Thiago is maybe the better like long-term pick. And so that's why if we didn't have the 5 AFCON transfers, I would say him. But I think in this short term, you really could take the punt.
And he's a little cheaper.
Go either way.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
All right, well, we'll leave Thiago in his placeholder. Now we're getting out of the tricky part. We're starting to get to sort of the budget guys, right? So we've established mostly, who are the guys we're really targeting. The forwards, it's potentially Voltemade, potentially Welbeck. But Holland and Mateta are pretty locked. I think everybody wants at least one of Mbumo, potentially 2 United guys. Semenyo's probably a keep. Sarr's probably a keep. Saka's a maybe. How do we round out these budget guys? Because there's been so much variability in terms of these guys. Is this the time to start looking at the defense and just see who fits later? All right.
Go ahead, Sharp. You got something to say.
No, I don't think that's wrong. I think that's the right way to go. I still think I would lean Minte when we get there because we don't have Welbeck to get someone from Brighton. But I also, as I say, that Van Heck at 4-4 would be a good addition, I think, back there too.
Okay.
I think,
yeah.
If we're talking budget,
I feel like Senesi is probably somebody that you should just have just because of the def cons and having good fixtures. That feels like an easy one.
And they've kept a ton of clean sheets. Even if they've had a couple down weeks, those were against hard teams.
Yeah.
Like we kind of knew those would be challenging games. Okay, I like that one. Luke, you felt very strongly earlier about a Palace defender. Does that still hold true?
Well, looking at our budget, though, we only have 16 and a half left. I don't know if we can afford it.
I don't know. I think if you go like
at
a minimum.
I feel like the Palace one is tough because it's like I don't necessarily feel passionately about having them because I'm assuming that there's going to be some injuries and they're going to let up a little bit. It's more so just that if we were struggling to fill out our defense, I would go there.
I think Richards is probably the best 4.5 million defender in the game. That's my personal take. That might be a hot take, and I don't know how the data substantiates that. So let's look at that. Maybe
I think it does. But I mean, he's really up there.
I think between the combination of fixtures, potentially Keane is up high, who I looked at a couple weeks ago. He just came off a massive point haul, I guess is the thing. Beyond that, he wasn't even. I guess I didn't realize he was starting, but there was a Braithwaite injury in there somewhere that affected him.
Yeah.
And then Cash, but Villa have been hit or miss, and then there's Mukiele. So I guess there are other options, but I think of the teams that these four guys are on, I think Palace is the best, especially with the run.
And they have good runs. Yeah. And then I think in the Keane spot, just take your pick of a 4.0 defender. Whoever.
4.0, not two 4.5s.
I don't think we're gonna. Well, yeah, I feel like we're not gonna have the money.
I think we're gonna take Saka down. I think is what we're gonna end up doing.
Well, I mean, this is a team. What does this leave us for a goalkeeper? I suppose if we did Raya, can we still do Dubravka? Nope.
Well, we have too many Arsenal at that point, just because we have Timber, Saliba.
Yeah. Okay. So let's get Dubravka in there because he's cheap as hell, and then we still can't afford a starting goalkeeper. So someone's got to go. This is where it gets hard. How do we like the structure?
It's got everybody we want, so I think that's solid. The Minte one's tough because like he'd be the easy, like you can drop him to a 5.5 or a 5.0, but I do think that Minte provides so much better value than those guys that's like that part's tricky. And the obvious cash cow to Sharp's point is Saka, but
I don't think we have to go create like.
Yeah, we're close.
You want to go back to Bruno?
Over like so Bruno in place of Saka.
I hate it, but maybe
deficiencies with this team as I see it is that we have no Liverpool players ahead of the best run.
Yeah, and that's got to change.
If Saka's got to go, I think I could absolutely hear that argument. I'm a little weary. See, you can't look up Bruno; it's Fernandes. But then if you look up Enzo, it's also whatever. This shit is awful. I'm gonna be on about it all week. Probably you'll hear it on Twitter too. But okay, so we drop Bruno down. That gives us 5 mil more. We still need a goalkeeper, unfortunately. So, I mean, who can we afford?
I mean, we could. Yeah,
Petrovic.
How much is?
Wait, we could get Martinez too.
You want Martinez? He didn't come up earlier.
He didn't come up, but he just saved the pin last week. He's done some cool things. He's 5 mil. That's really the only reason he came to mind.
How did he get 14 points versus Bournemouth? Oh my goodness.
I think it was saves, the penalty.
Penalty save. Keep in mind he has 40 points, and one of those
15 of them were last week. That's fair.
Yeah. I mean, now I will say Villa's been. I have been looking at Matty Cash just as a slight departure recently. Genuinely my least favorite player in the Premier League. So I'm not going to bring him in on principle. But if one of you guys were to look at him, I could see the argument because Villa in their past couple weeks they kind of took it to Liverpool a little bit, but then they beat Bournemouth. They took it to City a little bit. Played Spurs hard, made Burnley look really good. So excluding the Burnley game, though, it feels like Villa are trending up a little bit. Am I the only one who thinks that?
No, I think that's definitely true.
And then their upcoming run isn't that bad. So maybe not Martinez, but I don't know, Leeds, Wolves, Brighton, Arsenal, West Ham. I could see a couple clean sheets in there for Villa. Is there any merit to considering like a cash. I guess it's just a question of I don't know who we'd get him over, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say I guess I just like our defense where it's at right now, so it makes it hard to touch. But I don't think it's wrong to consider a cash in general. I think that's a very fair call out, very fair
Yeah.
play.
I think if you were going to do cash, I would consider him instead of Richards.
Got it. Agreed. With that being said, though, I don't see Martinez as a super viable option right now.
This
So
this is where
short
I
on
think
money.
I'd be between three. I think I'd be between Raya, Pope, and Petrovic here. And obviously, if you go Raya, then we'd have to get rid of an Arsenal defender. But that's how you'd make your money there, right? You could take that down to a 4.5 or a 5.0. If you go Pope, like you're gambling a little bit with Newcastle finding their footing, but he does get a shit ton of save points. So I think that's like he's still definitely an option. And then Petrovic just as the like 4.5. Like if you're okay, I don't want to spend the money on goalie and I want to spend the money elsewhere. But we are in a spot where it's like we have 5 mil and I feel like we don't have anywhere else to spend the money. Like obviously you always can, but
Wait, can you do me a favor and click on Dubrovka's games? Like I'm trying to see when. Ooh,
when you could rotate him in.
yeah, basically.
That's
But
why ultimately I picked Raya, is because with all of these keepers who are on like suboptimal teams, at some point you need to rotate them. Like I think it's a bit of a misnomer in my mind with goalkeepers to say like Roofs is the best goalkeeper because he goes off for 10, 10, 8, 8, and then it's 1, 2, 2, 2 versus Raya is just banging on 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, like barring the occasional game where they actually concede a goal. Like the problem is with like a budget option is that you have to actually play them in the game that they're going to score, and that's not always a 1-for-1 on like the on paper fixture. So if you're not going to go expensive goalkeeper, then I think you can't play Dubrovka because you have to rotate them, and his games are awful. Another thing worth pointing out.
I'm also kind of pro Raya, and my only reason is that as much as we talked about that Saliba could have potential outlets to points, I think he could also easily, like, let's say a couple of games without Gabriel, he's not hitting DEFCONs, he hasn't gotten a header, he hasn't gotten any attacking returns. You're going to be like, damn it, why am I spending 6 mil on Saliba when I could just do Raya? It's tricky now that they're almost the same price, like because you're spending the money either way. But I think you could probably get the value in a different defender. I don't know. I could be convinced of like a Petrovic or a Pope as well. And obviously we're a lot closer to having Pope money, and then we could just take somebody down.
Yeah, I mean, either way, we still don't have enough money, so someone's got to go. I think honestly, probably the question is we took out Saka for Bruno. It's kind of a money sink for a money sink. Is it better to get a different Man United mid and beef up something like the defense with a Van Dijk?
Are you talking Cunha? Don't you?
No. I thought I was gonna make you happy and say we should take him down to Gakpo.
I don't think Gakpo in particular makes me happy. I'm not.
No, I thought you just wanted someone from Liverpool in there.
No, I mean,
I kind of do want Gakpo, TBH. I think his upside is just so high over the next few that I'd be willing to take the gamble.
I'm just nervous about his minutes all of a sudden because it's 60, 90, 30.
Yeah. No, that's the right thinking for sure.
But I mean, so you slot him in. Now we have 1.2. I mean, he frees up a lot. Then
that's the thing, because then you can go back and
Richards.
But you can.
I guess though, if you're
go get Raya first, so
for
we can
Saliba?
see. No, not for.
Oh, you're saying still do the triple up in the back?
Yeah,
you're doing triple defense.
I'm a triple up for a second, and then we're gonna put oh my god, filter to 5-1 because I think he's 5-1 now, and I just can't think of who it is. Not Burn.
Chow? Like Newcastle, LaCroix? What are you thinking? Give us a team.
No, I think it was LaCroix. I think is who it was, but I don't know if that matters then because all we did was get rid of Richards. Basically.
I mean, I've been contemplating that move for half the season. Like, is it better to just upgrade Richards to a higher scoring Palace defender? As a Richards owner, I think it could be, right? Like, if you're going to spread out the funds anyways and you want to take a shot on a Liverpool asset, maybe this is the move. I also just wonder if maybe you just shouldn't get Gakpo at all. Like, maybe if Van Dijk, if we're unsure about the Liverpool attack, maybe you just have to go Van Dijk for the cover, and that leaves you 6-8, which is still like, we can't do it with Raya in or Saliba. You could sacrifice one of those and get like a Rice, double up on the
Man, just really quickly, fuck Liverpool, man. Fuck Liverpool. The fact that we're sitting here in game week 12 where they have this insane run and being like, can't get any of them. Fuck that. That's so stupid. I hate them.
Yeah. Fair. I'm not happy about it either.
All right. Where does this leave us? What's our final team? We built a wild card, kind of. What are we locking in? The silence is deafening.
I'm looking at the Rice spot and I'm like, yeah. And so I'm like, do I like
agree.
Saka or Bruno there? Because like basically, is Saka worth the extra $1 million? He probably isn't, but it's close. Like Saka provides so much upside attacking, right? So pros and cons, right? Saka has better attacking threat, I think, than Bruno. Bruno has arguably more routes to points. Saka with Gyökeres out has penalties. So I think you'd want Saka, but just would you want Saka for $1 million more? Like he keeps you from doing so much. As soon as we get Saka in, we're going to have to start talking about what Arsenal defender we're taking down and that kind of stuff. So he just creates such a blocker. I don't know. But he also is just like in a time where you could set and forget. He's pretty set and forget. Is he going to get injured? Almost certainly. I don't know.
Okay. Well, as it stands with the guys in the team and me having the most transfer budget, controversial subject, couple other things to keep in mind. Most people will probably have Gabriel. So if we get some clarity that he's not injured for a long period of time, people decide to keep him. That's a little bit of budget getting taken away. It really does feel like dumping out Saka is going to have to be something that most people take unless Semenyo's injured long term. We have to dump him out too. Then we free up a lot of cash to maybe keep a Saka or double up on the United mids.
Yeah, this brings us back. Okay, yeah, just go back to Bruno.
And we just still don't have a goalkeeper. So if we're locking in Pope as like a good alternative, we can't actually afford Bruno now.
Fernandez. Yeah, I mean, but 0.2 off is where I'm like, oh, well, I mean, we could find an actual 4-0 over Rodon. We could talk about, like, I feel like if for the purposes of creating this,
it's best team, not best team you can afford.
Well, I was going to say, like, I feel like Minte, like, if we dropped him down to, like, a 5-5, it's, like, the difference between that and what we're talking, like, is fine.
I mean, I didn't realize Caicedo was... Oh, Caicedo. Yeah, you can do that.
There you go. So if you're... And at that point, you know what? Throw in Casemiro. We'll just do the United triple up.
Okay, and now I click confirm, right?
Yes,
like exactly. Right here.
Yeah,
take a 24-point hit.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Only 24, not bad.
So this is it. This is the 3 Wanks wildcard squad. Triple up of Fernandez, Mbeumo, and Casemiro in the midfield. No, I'm taking that motherfucker out.
No, that was a bit. Dude, maybe you do put a Minte there and then you do like Saliba to Mosquera. Because, okay, what you just brought up about the Gabriel thing, I think is very real in that no matter what, you're going to have to bring him back, right? Mm-hmm. Like, right? Because he's just the best defender in the game by a mile. So it's like when he is back, you're going to want him back. And it's a question of where do you get that money from? So having somebody like Mosquera that you know you have to get rid of, fine. Maybe Gabriel comes back in 16. You use 2 of those transfers in your defense. I don't know. But I guess you're having to do quite a bit of transferring there because you have to transfer out Mosquera, transfer in Gabriel, and then find the money elsewhere to fund it. But I don't hate that in the short term. Because if we do know Gabriel is out, then you have a cheap starting Arsenal defender.
I mean, genuinely, my concern is with the Arsenal defense, and my sincere hope is that the Gabriel injury is long term. No, I'm kidding. I don't actually pray for the downfall of this player, but that it does destabilize their defense, right? Like if they, I mean, there's no arguing that he's an important player for them,
Yeah,
both
for sure.
offensively and defensively, and all of a sudden they start conceding one or two more goals. That might not cost them the league necessarily, but
It'll cost you
that
clean sheet points.
could cost you clean sheet points. And that is also, it's just their alarming goal scoring rate. That is one of the things that has made the Arsenal defenders so high. And if even one of those threats is being marked with two men now, maybe then, because a Calafiori or a Timber or a Gabriel's injured, they can double up on more of the other set piece threats, and then the whole landscape changes. So I'm weary about Arsenal players. I think if Gabriel's injured, keep him. If not, probably still want two of them. But I mean, these are the debates.
Well, okay, here's the other thing. We just picked Pope and Dubravka. Who are you starting this week? Like, if this is actually your team.
Yeah.
Then it brings me back to I think we should just go Raya. And then I think you take Mascara down to like somebody else. A much cheaper
drop
guy.
Mascara out. Yeah, I mean,
because then you're keeping double defense. There's no like goalie that we're like, oh, you got to get him outside of Raya. The argument would be to go really cheap and then use the money elsewhere. But again, I don't feel like we're looking at this and being like, oh, we need $1 million more and then we could get this guy to this guy. Because then I'd be like, okay, shit, let's go Petrovic or whatever.
Yeah, I would be like nervous about picking a lot of these guys is the problem. It's O'Reilly is someone we talked about offline. He could actually be a shout. The City fixtures aren't atrocious. They're not the best on paper, but they're pretty good for a big run.
Is he not a victim of the pep roulette?
I mean, everybody's a victim of the pep roulette, but at least recently he's been rouletting the right way and doing a damn good job of it. And Aït-Nouri leaves for Afghan, who's his main rotational threat. So even if he's rotating right now in the short term when Aït-Nouri leaves, I have to think he's a lock unless there's a City fan out there who can weigh in differently. So he might be a great shout.
Wait, so how much money do we have for that spot?
0.3 left.
5.3.
I actually love that. I'm mad you beat me to it because that's the one transfer I have like locked in the bank this week is him coming in.
Well, I take special pleasure in ruining your night.
Well, okay. Is there something to be said for if we dropped that
So
to
glad
a 4
we're
or
back.
5?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you over the banter, Luke. What's up?
No, you're good. Is there something to be said for if we dropped O'Reilly to a 4-5, would we have the money to do something with Minte? Like, is there a better 6-5 than Minte? I'm not anti-Minte. I know it seems like
most of the 6-5s are just CDMs. So I think it depends on how confident you are that the CDM meta, as it's been, continues.
You know what? Yeah, okay. Then don't fuck with it. Put in O'Reilly or whoever. I think that's a fine one as like having a cheeky City defender in there, and then you can kind of say, hey, I don't need to play him necessarily, because you could play Timber, Senesi, and Richards any given week and sub him in. Fine with that.
Sheriff's dying at me trying to spell this fucking name again.
Oh my god, that was so funny, dude. It's every time. It kills me.
But I have the last name with an O apostrophe, and so I know from personal experience that the vowels mean nothing in these O apostrophe last names. They just flip them willy-nilly. Okay, I don't hate this team. I'm willing to call this like a mostly lock. If you have this 0.3 million, you could squeeze it out somewhere. But I think we've discussed the pros and the cons and a lot of the upside. Overall, I think that Thiago is probably one of the guys I would try to move towards if I had to do some takeaways, just because I'm not super confident on the 3-striker system, and a lot of people probably have Wolta made. That being said, he's probably going to bag a couple, so there's probably going to be a little bit of like woulda, coulda, shoulda if you transfer him out. I think everybody agrees that you have to have some combination of at least United, Palace, and Arsenal players. And then Bournemouth players are probably great value for their budget is what seems to be the takeaways from this. Is that generally fair statements?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I can't emphasize enough how insane it is that we have no Liverpool in a game week 12 wild card.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think we're per se wrong. I just think it's wild.
I just, again, wish they were priced appropriately, and they won the Prem last year. So who's to say that they wouldn't have been good this year? But it's a bummer that you can't play around with them a little bit more. Like all of these Arsenal guys have risen significantly, and they're just hitting Van Dijk level.
Yeah, damn.
All right.
Damn. Well, we're at an hour 20. Do we want to call it, or do we want to do transfer plans, or is that going to just send us into a tizzy? Where are you guys at? I'm happy either way.
The problem is with the transfer plans is my week is going to be very if Semenyo then, or if Gabriel then. And I just don't think, because we're recording on this Monday night, that we have enough information to know, because I had, before the international break, had no intentions of transferring Semenyo and Gabriel out. So my plan was completely different. And now I'm like, shit.
And my plan going into this week was mainly based on whether or not I was going to sell Saka for Semenyo. And coming into this week pre-injuries, that would have been pretty much a lock. Like I wouldn't have thought much about it. And now I'm like, well, maybe I'm keeping Saka for a bit. I don't know, I guess. So yeah, I'm with you on that. Look at us. Look at us doing teamwork. That was great. Nice job, everyone. We only had a few, we didn't even yell at each other that much. Look at us.
Just that much.
I'm proud of us. It was that time off. It brought us closer.
Yeah,
yeah. Once the scores start rolling in this weekend,
we'll get the banter
back.
Will be right back.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for hanging on. If you did, for watching us build the immaculate wild card. And yeah, we will catch you guys next time.
Peace.